Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the First Time Storytelling Broadcast. All right, today on the First Time Storytelling Broadcast, my guest is Eric Wilson. Eric is the CEO of multiple companies, which he rebuilt after filing for bankruptcy during the 2010 recession. He is an Air Force veteran who fought in Desert Storm and a meteorologist. Do you know how many times I practice pronouncing that word? A meteorologist. I'm still doing it wrong, but
it's harder to write.
No kidding.
Meteorologist. Backspace. Weatherman.
Who was on the air for 18 years. He is here to share the story of how he became a weatherman, which is much easier to pronounce, for the first time. All right, Eric, welcome to the First Time Storytelling Broadcast.
Thank you, Anne, for having me.
All right, so let's get into this. How does one become a weatherman? How did that even get on your radar?
They don't do it the way I did it. Yes, that's nice. That's nice. Very punny. You do not do it the way I did it. Okay, so I was in Desert Storm, and when I finished my term in service, people have to do the Wayback Machine. Desert Storm, they're thinking, okay, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq. No, this was the original Persian Gulf War. And I was part of the Red Horse team, and I was the med tech on the Red Horse. And that literally everyone had a gun but me. I had the helmet with the white X that said shoot here. And I thought, I got to rethink my life. And so I had two choices. I could go home and go to school and get my degree 4 years after my peers already had their bachelor's. All right. I had some night school, but that was about it. And I didn't want that. So option number 2 was to stay in freezing cold Minot, North Dakota. And if you don't know where that is, and as a California kid, I didn't know where North Dakota was. North Dakota is on the other side of the Rockies. And it's up there next to southern Manitoba, Canada, Saskatchewan, where the ice is. It's literally the first time the wind starts to blow. That's where North Dakota is. Minot, at the time, it's an oil huge boom, but at the time had a population of 35,000 people in the wintertime. They're a bunch of farmers, and you could not go AWOL because you could stand on a library book and literally see where the guy was 3 days later. It's flat. So I told everyone I was going to stay in Minot. Well, if you're not somebody's uncle's brother's cousin and you're a baser, you're not getting a job. And so I took the job, the only job that was out there, and that was overnight radio commercial player. Okay. And my one job was to do the time and the temperature on that radio station once an hour at the top of the hour, because you had to do that legally to identify the station. So I'd say, good morning. It's 2 a.m. on KCJB AM. Click. And I'm like, oh, dang it. I forgot the weather. I forgot the weather. And I was so afraid to turn the microphone back on. I'm like, what am I doing? But I thought, well, at least I'm getting paid to be on the radio. Right? I get to listen to music. It's just not at a great hour. So I started getting a bit more adventurous because the program director listens to every time that microphone is on, which is why you're so scared, because he's going to take your tape. Everyone had a tape. This tape, by the way, for our newest generation listening, is magnetic tape, and it was in a tape recorder. So every time you turn that on, the tape recorder would go on, and that he would listen to your broadcasts. Now that's great for afternoon drive, morning show, midday show, when people are awake. I didn't think it was a really big deal. I didn't think he checked the overnight tape, but he did. And he found out I was having a lot of fun. And that move I thought was going to get me fired. And then I was going to go back home and go to school and live in my mom's basement and all that. And it ended up getting me promoted to afternoon drive on KCJB AM. I loved it.
So hang on a second, because you said
Yep.
you got creative, but you didn't say how. So
I got creative.
what started happening?
Oh,
What was the producer listening to? What was Eric doing?
I wanted to know if anybody was listening. So I was having people call in and I started like a talk show.
Oh wow, you really went all out with it.
Why not? Right? Is anyone listening? If no one's listening, there's no harm, no foul. The phone started ringing. People were up. People who had been drinking were up. And then I learned that you're not supposed to do this and this and this and this. But he believed in me and he believed in my ability. And because he believed in me, he was really hard on me. And some of our hardest teachers are the ones that we appreciate the most later in life. So Jay Davis, it was his call name. I can say that because his real name is something else. Jay Davis was an amazing instructor and an amazing guy in my life. But at the time, I thought he was going to kill me. And he, well, not kill me, but fire me, you know. And he said, no, look, you got it, kid. But you're not going to do that on my radio station. You're going to do this. And he had all these things. So what I did was I did a kind of like a call in and let's all talk about your problems. Kind of like, you know, all the other late night radio shows that I would listen to, you know, about the UFOs and all that stuff. It was really fun. I saved the tape. So I don't have anything to play it in anymore, but.
So that's how you got into broadcasting. Where have
That's
you
how
become the weatherman?
I actually signed up because I was pretty good at fixing things. So I signed up to be an engineer because I thought, you know, engineering would be what I went to school for. So I thought, you know, let's learn how a radio station works. Let's learn how the switches work. And then I got the, you know, nobody wanted this overnight shift. So it was always available. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I'd had that incident, which I guess propelled me into the story because this is a small town. And so KCJB AM is also KCJB TV. And it started in 1953. And really, we had the same old equipment. Like when the sun came up, we would take a lever and you would worry about the radiation from all the bars glowing right next to your microphone that looks like this one. You're like, wow, is that safe? I don't know. You know, it was very old, but it was the perfect place for me to make my mistakes and for me to learn from a very loving community and a very loving group of people. And anyone in broadcasting, what?
Get us moving on the story. So where does the weatherman come in?
It all fits in.
All
now,
right.
KCJB TV is connected to KCJB AM. All right.
Okay.
So what happened was the lady who was doing the weather quit. So there was no one to do the weather. So the anchor was reading it and the ratings started going down. So all the jocks, okay, the people on radio, now I'm an afternoon jock, I'm an afternoon drive time guy. It went from everybody, all three of us, because they had 2 FM stations, an AM station, which I was on, all three of us going and doing the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock and the 11 o'clock or the 10 o'clock news to just me. And I was horrible at it. I was absolutely horrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I pointed to California and it was New York and I couldn't figure out the chroma key. I mean, it wasn't like Disneyland is today where everyone knows what a chroma key is. Back then you're like, whoa, look at that.
How was the transition? Because radio is one thing. Now
right.
You're on camera. What was that transition like? Like aside from knowing where to point, what to say, what was the first?
You look different. Experience? You look different. It's not like looking in the mirror. There's no practicing. And you've got all these wires. Like I had a cord hanging down my left jacket. God, my first time I was on, I didn't even have a jacket. I didn't own it. The only jacket I had was my military jacket. I didn't have a suit and tie. I mean, so they had me wear the sports anchor's jacket. The weekend sports anchor's jacket fit me. What? Yeah, put this on. And I did, and it fit. And so nobody could tell because it was gray. And you switch your shirt and tie. It's every guy says the same thing. And you got a gray jacket. And I eventually got my own suit, but it didn't matter what suit I was wearing. A cord was hanging down my left hand to advance the maps. And so my very first on the air, I remember being in the bathroom going, what am I doing? 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 This is crazy. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be on the television. And back when television mattered.
On the news, not just TV, but on the news. People watch the news.
And they wait for the weather. This is important. What is barley selling for? Is it going to rain? Is it going to hail? Is it going to freeze over? Well, they knew it was going to freeze over when it wasn't going to freeze over. But when is spring coming in? When can I plant? And all that. They relied on radio and TV back in the late 80s and early 90s. There was cable, but the local feel of right now back then was television news. So I knew this was a big deal, and this could get me out of Minot if I was good at it. And I wasn't. I was incredibly nervous. And when I become nervous, I turn into Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey is not someone you can trust with your weather. So Jim Carrey was very popular at the time in the early 90s with Ace Ventura, and you just didn't want to be associated with a goofball. And I was a goofball at the very beginning. That was just my nerves coming out. So, here I am very smooth on the radio, but when you start seeing your reflection on television and that you have televisions on the floor and you start thinking, this is in people's living rooms, like thousands, you start thinking thousands, right? It's actually hundreds, but in Minot. But you're thinking thousands of people are watching every move I make. Don't pick your nose. Don't stutter. Don't swear. I don't swear normally, so I didn't worry about that. But it's just, you think about the weirdest stuff. Like when you turn around, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my hair. I'm only 26 years old, and all these lights, how can you not? I mean, I knew eventually I'd be losing my hair, but not at 26. I was like, oh. So my first time being on the air was a direct result of being on radio first. So that's how it ties together. I wasn't really going off on a tangent. It was radio first. Stephanie quit. All the jocks went on, and then they stopped. They saw themselves on TV, and
so they were out. They're like, we're radio guys. We're going back to radio.
Face for radio.
Now you're there, and they're like, you suck at this, but you're a whole guy. You're going to keep doing it.
I was the only one. They were calling the TV station. It was ringing off the hook. Get this guy off the air.
Are you that bad?
I was that bad.
Holy moly.
How can anybody be that bad at anything, right? It's just TV.
They're calling and saying, get him off the air.
This is very applicable to right now, because right now everyone's on TikTok and everyone's really good at broadcasting and doing stuff like this. But back then it was an art form. There was an actual style and a rhythm, and you had to tell a story. You had to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Why is the extended forecast going to look the way it does? That's your story. Why is tomorrow?
But you're not a meteorologist. I mean, it's one thing to be a guy on camera, but those people get an education, then they end up on the air. So you are doing this a little backwards.
I was on the air first.
The public wants you off the air. So what is the news station doing? So they're sending. Why are they keeping you on?
They're sending out an all call, and they brought in people like a telethon to calm people down that they're searching for a meteorologist, and once we find one, we'll get rid of him. And nobody came. And I started getting better, and people started getting used to me. And
were they at least helping you? Were they coaching you, teaching you? Okay.
Yes. Because it was their TV station.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to look bad. And so I had a lot of people help me. And that's what I meant in the beginning by, the loving community of Minot and that TV station, is that Jim Olson, no pun intended. His name is Jim Olsen, Jimmy Olsen, the reporter for Superman. Jim Olsen is to this day one of my best friends. And we've stayed in really close contact ever since. And he had done broadcasting. His father had owned a radio station. He had some funny name in the 70s as a hippy dippy radio jock guy, like Wolfman Jack. But radio at the time of the 90s was kind of getting away from the Wolfman Jack and into just regular people talking like you and I are right now.
Yeah.
And kids today have mastered that, but back then it was an art, so there was no one to learn from. There was no YouTube, there was no let me do some research. There was no internet, there was nothing. There was only
people had to teach you. I mean, there were people who had done it before that were there to teach you, and that's what producers are for. And certainly if you said, if they want to stop the complaints, they don't have anybody else stepping up to the plate, then you got to take the talent.
They got to help me.
Yeah, you have and help you. So they're coaching you and teaching you. And
I promised them, I said, if you help me, I'll get my degree in meteorologist and I'll become the first broadcast meteorologist in North Dakota. And that's what this is right there. That's my degree for meteorology. So I am a certified broadcast meteorologist by the AMS, by the NWA. All these things behind me make me a certified meteorologist today. But the way I started is not your normal start. How's that?
So how did it feel once you were starting to get better of it? You were starting to get the hang of it, and now the public doesn't hate you. Maybe they actually start appreciating you. Like, how long did it take for that to take your place, and what did that feel like?
It took about 3 years. Yeah, I'd like to say it took like 2 days, but it took about 3 years
like
for me to feel comfortable as this thing. Because when I would go shopping, there's the weatherman. There he is, get him. And it wasn't get him, but they would complain about me being wrong. And I wasn't wrong. It rained somewhere, just not where you were, and that was like not really a friendly response. They really just wanted to talk to me. So I had to learn how to interact with the public. I couldn't just go somewhere, do my radio gig and then go somewhere and not talk and just be a regular Joe. Regular Joe left the building the minute I became a weatherman. And then, so you're on 24/7, even like right now, I'm probably doing my broadcaster voice. You forget after a while. You get trained in the art, but regular Joe goes away. And you're always on, and especially the weather. People always want to talk to the weather, and when they like you, which started happening in about 3 years, that's when I liked it back. when they stopped being mean.
You definitely stuck with it through thick and thin, as they would say.
Yes, they had to, and I had to show them that I was trying. And so by becoming the first broadcast meteorologist, they had something to promote. I had a degree in engineering with atmospheric science, as my bachelor's, and then later, Michigan to master's. And then, so yeah, that's how that all.
So you were still on the air while you were studying, while you were working on your degree.
My day consisted like this. I would go to school. I had a 9 o'clock class. I had a 11 o'clock class. I would go to sleep at noon. I would wake up 2 hours later. I would be on the air at 2:30. From 2:30 to 5:30 for 3 hours, I was the afternoon drive. Then from 5:30, I would get ready for the 6 o'clock show. And from 6:30, I would eat lunch or eat supper. It would be my lunch. Pardon me. It would be my lunch. And then from 7 until 9 for 2 hours a night, I would do my homework. And then we were live at 10. And then I would go home and go to bed, wake up, go to school.
Wow.
So it wasn't night school. It was regular school. But my job was weird.
Yeah.
I had that weird, hey, aren't you the 7-Eleven guy? No, you're the weatherman. You're that guy. And I'm like, yes, I know, I'm working on it.
So everybody
So,
in your class knew that
oh
you're
yeah,
actually the weatherman. You're in class, so that had to make things interesting as well, as far as
yeah,
your grades,
yeah,
people
yeah.
judging you.
It was bad. You'd think he'd have it easy, but it was really hard, especially like science. Like, I didn't think this through. You got to be really smart at conceptualizing three-dimensional like space in your head, and when you're doing lab experiments. I didn't get all A's. I mean, I got a degree, but that's a 3.1 or 3.2, I forget. But I mean, I worked twice as hard as the kids in my class, my science classes, and I didn't take any broadcasting, which was another weird thing, is that why aren't you just over there getting your degree in broadcasting? It's like, because I made a promise that I wanted to be the first meteorologist in North Dakota.
And
So
now, how much of a difference did that make? Did that change? Did you get certain weather report, and now because you actually have the knowledge and say, yeah, I don't think that's right, and I'm not saying it?
So let me make sure I answer the question correctly by understanding the question. Um, how do I watch weather now?
No, so back then, so as
Okay.
you get more knowledge about the weather, and obviously
Oh,
the pressure to be right increases, you have more knowledge about the weather. So
yes.
now when you're provided the weather report and you do your own thinking process or research on it, where you're like,
Right.
yeah, no, I'm not reporting this because I don't think it's correct.
Okay. All right. That's okay. I see what you're saying. So there's the National Weather Service that turns out what the radio station reads, and that is tonight partly cloudy, low of 31. Tomorrow chance of rain, 30%. High of 57. I did not do that. I went and I looked at the maps and I created my own maps because that's the only tool that I had behind me. Remember the clicker that was in my arm. So my storytelling was my map sequencing long before PowerPoint ever existed. This was my PowerPoint, and it had a beginning and a middle and an end. And that is, here's right now, here's all the things, all the factors that go into the extended forecast, and end with the extended forecast. Meaning now you know why it's going to snow Wednesday. Now you know why it's going to be bright and hot on Friday, and why the weekend's not going to be any good. That was my approach to each of it. But as a meteorologist, hopefully I'm answering this correctly. I didn't look at them and disagree. I worked with them and said, you know what, I really don't. From what I'm seeing, I'm just not going to mention rain for the weekend because that's going to bum a lot of people out. I'm going to wait until Thursday until I'm at least certain about 60% that it's going to rain. Because what can you do about it? It's Thursday. It's still not the weekend. And so, we went back and forth, the National Weather Service and I also wanted to redo the warning system, because what's a watch and what's a warning and what's the difference? Something's either happening or it's not, right? No, sometimes we're just waiting for it to happen. And I'm like, but you don't need to announce that because that confuses people. So I put in a white paper on how we should change the warning system. And that was about as aggressive as I got. Because obviously it hasn't changed. It's still, we're watching for tornadoes and we're in a severe thunderstorm warning. And it's like, so what does that mean? Don't worry, it's south of you. Then why did you tell me any of that? Right. So, and
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So then later I got my computer science degree much later in my life. And I wanted to make an app that would just tell you the forecast for where you are right now, because that's really all that matters. But that's not the story. The story of becoming a weatherman and the firsts. My first time on the weather was because everyone else bailed. I was horrible. I kept trying. I went to school and I struggled through it, and eventually left Minot and went to Buffalo. And that was Buffalo, New York was my real TV experience, where they had producers like you mentioned, because in North Dakota, you did everything. You made your own maps. You did your own drawings. You advanced everything. You moved the camera for the sports guy. You shot your own video. You did everything. And
Wow.
in Buffalo,
There's nothing like learning how to do it. That's
you've got it. That's
yeah.
exactly right. I
That's a
learned
blessing.
I
Doesn't
learned
feel like it at the
everything.
time, but yeah.
Oh, it didn't, but I knew exactly how to. So I go to Buffalo where there's all of these uh, uh, labor unions. And the minute I start touching something that is not talent, I was considered talent. Okay. Now I've gone from being hated to being called talent, right? And it's like, don't let that get to your head. That's just something for you. Talent stands over here, and the people who make you look good stand over there. And the minute I went over there to, touch the dials and stuff, they got really upset. So I learned firsthand about, business and about how important it is to keep that guy feeding his family and doing that job, and don't go
Yeah.
over there and do everything. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay. So yeah, that was another first. So
Well, and then we
you
can
said you'd
continue
find it.
on. Yeah, there's a lot of other firsts that that's the thing. A
Yeah.
first time can be a domino effect to so many other things. But what's really great about your story is you you made a decision to stay there, even though there's nothing keeping you there, and it didn't sound like it was all that great place to be. You took a job you knew nothing about, but decided to have fun with it, and that ended up being a good thing. And then it just continued to take you on, okay, here's an opportunity, and you kept being in the deep end and figuring out how to swim so before you drown, and then taking that next step. So it's a really great story and a really great example of how there's nothing wrong with making decisions that throw you in the deep end, and for you to just figure it out. It might be tough. You might feel like you're behind the curve. You might even have people hate you. and, and
I
yeah,
don't need
just
to. Yeah.
keep, yeah, and you just stay at it and keep going. But you must have loved it too. There must have been some aspect of it that you did love and
The people.
enjoy. Yeah,
The
that,
people.
yeah,
When I
that
got
made
to
you
go to
want
the
to.
state fair, that was the big event. There's in North Dakota, there's no sports. So the state fair is the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to meet the people from all over the state. They would come, and I'm like, I didn't realize how far that TV signal went. Well, we had relay stations that would relay it, this one TV station, into all corners. So I'm meeting some friendly people who did not call in with hate mail. And I realized not the whole world did not hate me on TV, just some very angry people did. And that there were more people who liked me. And when I met them, then I fell in love with the job. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I took pictures with them, and they wanted my autograph. I don't know why, because I wanted rock stars' autographs. Why do you want my autograph? Oh my gosh, you think of me that way. Okay, well, let's be that cool guy. Let's be like Keanu Reeves and take pictures and take time and be the cool guy. And that's when, to answer your question, yes, there must have been a time that I liked it or I wouldn't have continued. Yes, and it was the people. It was
Yeah.
always
All
the
right.
people. Yeah.
What a great story. And what a great things, because how old were you at the time?
I was 22.
Yeah.
I joined at 18, got out at 22. So I was 22 when I started the radio, 23 when I started TV.
Uh, well, to me, that sounds like a lot more fun than just being in college full time.
It does now. Now that you have me review, it's kind of like doing a resume. You're like, wow, look at all the stuff I know. So that's what I love about your program, is that it makes us kind of challenge ourselves to go inside and go, you know what, you can do this. You've done it before. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm a fan of this show.
Oh,
So
well, thank you.
you're
Yeah,
welcome.
and that's the power of remembering our first time stories, and remembering we are the sum of our experiences. Everything started with the first time. What
Mm-hmm.
was it, and what was my? Because
Mm-hmm.
we forget. I mean, time passes,
Mm-hmm.
and we do forget until we recollect, and we're like, oh, fully capable. I've done a
Yeah.
lot worse, or
Yeah.
a lot better,
and
depending
I've
on how
done a
you want
lot
to look at
better.
it. Yeah,
I
and
can I can get through this.
if I can look back on that and it was fun, someday I'll look back on this. It's making those connections between the past and the present. And
Yeah.
it is very good. And it's one of the reasons why I started this show,
I
is
think
because during the COVID-19, I think it was very important for us to do things for our mental well-being without even
Yeah.
having to go anywhere. And it was to revisit who we are and share
Yeah.
that with others, because
Yeah.
sharing the story, because we, especially, you know, over 100,000 people have died in the United States, over 120,000. When people are dying and we know death is not imminent, but it's somewhere, could happen, going to the grocery store could lead to who knows what. It matters that we know we mattered, which means we have to share our stories. If we share our stories,
Ooh.
then we matter to whoever is listening to it, even if it's just one person. And it's important to us to know that we matter. And then if you do tell first time stories and you record them, then you're leaving a diary of the things of who you are, who made you who you are. And, friends, family, people that love you are going to care to have that, those diaries. I don't know for you, but I wish I knew my parents more. I wish there was a diary. Of course, well, my mom actually did write journals, but one, they're in French, and two, she had really horrible handwriting. So reading those is not in the realm of possible. So,
Okay. Okay.
um, but with technology today, there's no reason why you can't leave a legacy of your life somewhere out there, even if it's on, just on the internet, that other people can get in touch with someday and know who you are. Or
Wow. It matters that you mattered.
yeah,
I like that. That's I'm gonna write that one down
and you
slowly.
slowly.
Not in my handwriting.
So somebody else can read it in the future. All right, Eric. Let's play the first time lightning round, and let's
So how do
oh,
I do up? Up?
just up, left, right. So up. So it's similar if you were on the app. So up. So the first time, if it's something you have done before, you would swipe up. So you can just say up or swipe up,
Okay.
and even.
Okay.
And then if
Done it.
it's if it's something you've never done, not interested, we go left. And if something you've never done, would like to do, to add it to your list, you would swipe right. So we go right.
Okay. All right. Something I'd want to do. I remember it. I practiced. I've studied. I'm
Okay.
ready. Let's go.
Go on a movie or TV tour.
A TV tour?
Or a movie like where a movie was
A
filmed, and an
movie.
actual tour. Yeah.
A movie. I would like to do that. Swipe to the right.
To the right. All right. Okay. So I have to share. So my first movie tour was in Austria. It was The Sound of Music, for The Sound of Music. I did not know that was a true story until I did the tour, and I was like, this family actually existed. Grandkids or grandkids are still alive and they still sing together. Mind blown.
Wow. I didn't know that either.
Oh yeah, it is.
You
They
have
were
company.
yeah. So
I can't. The Hills Are Alive on account of the music. Yeah.
yep,
My wife loves that show.
and it's
I now
definitely
have something for the dinner table tonight.
fun fact, honey.
Did you know they're still alive?
Okay,
Yeah.
ride on a catamaran.
I think I've done that.
Okay.
Catamaran is the boat with two sides to it,
Yes,
right? Yes,
correct.
I've done that. Done it.
What was your? Do you remember your first time on one of those?
Oh yeah, there's only one time. There's only one time you do that. The second time you've done something wrong or lost a bet. You're like, hey, that looks fun. All right. So a catamaran is put together by two. It's a very stable way to ride rough waves. Okay. That doesn't mean, however, heavy people like myself aren't going to bounce on the canopy that they put you on so the whole thing doesn't flip over. So if you have had anything in your stomach whatsoever, which is the reason why you get on one of those things, is because you think you can do anything. If you've had one of those days, yes, it's
Mm, that did
it's
not
another
end.
first.
So
It's another first.
that did not end well. Then did you end up on the side of the?
No,
Yeah.
I couldn't because it would have banged me in the face. So I
Oh.
had to hold on to it internally. So, but I was green. I was literally green from the, And my wife, who's much lighter and skinnier, she was on the hull, right? And I was out there on the bouncing part. That was just, but I've done that.
Okay.
Catamaran. Yep.
Play soccer.
Professionally?
No.
Okay. Because that would be crazy. I played soccer. Yeah, I played soccer.
Okay. Go apple picking.
Yep.
What about apple bobbing?
No.
Really? You never bob for apples?
Look to the right.
Ah.
No, I've never. That's the Charlie Brown special, right? Where they go for apples.
Yes. You
Yeah,
need
no,
to.
I've never done that.
Okay, definitely need to have that on the list.
Okay, yeah.
It's a lot, especially. Well,
How do you come up with an apple?
if there's two, well, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And then if you have two people going at once, so it's a competition, then you get water. No, you get water up your nose, and yeah, it gets. But it's fun.
I would have remembered that.
Add that to the next party that you have. All right, people, we're having a first time. We're all apple bobbing. Okay, perform in a music show.
I actually did that. I was the voice of "Feed Me, Seymour." Little Shop of Horrors. Little shop of horrors. I was the voice. I was the plant.
Oh,
Feed me, Seymour.
Very cool.
Yeah, a very small play, very small production in Buffalo, but it was still fun to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, recover your car from a towing company.
No, I've not done that. Look to the right.
Well, you might want to go to the left. You might not want to add that to the list.
Oh, don't add it to the list.
Unless you want to have your car towed and then have to go get it from a towing company.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I don't want to do
Have
that.
not done it. We're not adding it.
Okay.
Play Legend of Zelda.
Oh, gosh. If I wanted to do that, want to do it, haven't done it. So swipe in that direction.
Right. Okay. There's a much better version of it now available.
But I remember when it first came out and it was really popular and it was like 8-bit and dunk, 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 dunk. But I guess it was the storyline that was just so compelling. And all my friends played it. This was during the war when 8-bit, cartridges went into the machine, like Jumanji, the movie
64.
Jumanji. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we played back in the Gulf War. We played the Jumanji game, not Jumanji, but Zelda. Everybody played it. I never got a chance.
Man.
So yeah, I'd like to figure that one out.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to. I am sure somewhere the old original version exists where you might get your first on that one, but it might be a bit more of a challenge.
Okay,
I can make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, it was horrible at our house. We had 3, so I had 5 brothers and sisters, so we had 3 Nintendo 64s lined up.
5 brothers and 5 sisters?
5 brothers and sisters. No, 2 brothers, 3 sisters, but
okay.
We didn't quite all have our own Nintendos, but there were plenty to go around for all of us. And that was Legend of Zelda was one of those games. I never beat it, but I definitely played it. Okay.
Cool.
Buy a scratch ticket.
Do what?
Buy a scratch ticket.
Buy. I thought your word was I. I scratch ticket. And I'm like, an I scratch ticket. No. Yes, I buy scratchers. We call them scratchers for my wife all the time as surprises. She loves to gamble. Her wife won the New York State Lottery back in 1987.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. How fun is that, huh?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Eat raw oysters.
No. Oh, have you seen the inside of a oyster? Oh.
So that's a left. That's a vehemently going left.
Vehemently. Bye-bye.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Have you eaten a raw oyster? Have I offended you? Okay.
I have not. I live in New Orleans for 5 years where there was very easy to get raw oysters, and I looked at them and that's all I did.
Thank you.
I feel like I need to get over that, and because you can just suck it and swallow it. Like maybe you don't even have to chew it. No. Okay.
Okay.
Take a kickboxing class.
You know what? I'm going to say yes. I'd like to do that. Go to the right.
To the right. We're adding it to the list. All right. Well, that wraps up the first time lightning round. Now, I asked you a lot of different firsts. Is there one or a couple that you have on your list already?
Like a bucket list?
I am anti-bucket list. I actually hate that term. But
that's why we do the first thing.
Okay. Yeah, but here's why.
But so I did my research.
The bucket list, here's why I'm anti-bucket list. The bucket list focuses on death. It's the things you want to do before you die. I like to focus on living. How can I maximize today by doing something I have never done?
So what's on your life list? Things to do while you're alive?
Or just things that you've never done. What's on your, or you can just say your 365 first challenge list.
What's on your 365 challenge list? How about that?
Here we go.
My 365 challenge list. I would like to go to Pumapunko. I would like to touch the rocks at Pumapunko.
Where's Pumapunko?
These are ruins that nobody can figure out why they're there, at elevations that make no sense. I love ancient like history. Like it's there in front of us, but nobody can tell us really why. You know, not like the pyramids where they've got a story and, there's, hieroglyphics, but here is a huge megalith and nobody knows why it's here. What? And that's it. And everyone's good and they're going to move on. No. And one of them is Pumapunko. Another one's Machu Picchu. This is a castle built on the top of a mountain. Yeah. It takes 3 days to climb up it. It's
familiar with Machu Picchu, not with the first one. Where's the first one? Is that also
the first one is, they're both in Bolivia.
Okay.
And like Peru, Bolivia, that whole area. Okay. Just think of you're in Las Vegas.
Inca.
Keep going down Mayans, the San Andreas. Same Pacific coast plate, right there where they meet. You got this straight, anything down there. I'd like to be in a plane and I'd like to see the drawings that, the Nazca lines. I'd like to see the Nazca mummies that they retrieved that have 3 fingers that can't be explained. It's like, wow. It's so you get where I'm going with this, is that I like the unexplained and I don't want to go there to write a book. I don't want to go to I just want to see it. It's one thing to see something on YouTube and it's another thing to do it and to actually see it and go, wow, touch. They probably won't let you touch the mummies, but still you can go, if you can make it up the mountain, you can touch all the rocks and, you can't fit a piece of paper through the cracks. It baffles me. Who built this and why?
I went to Belize and I had my first experience with the Mayan ruins, and they have a caving expedition. So you go into that was their sacred place. So that's where they did sacrifices. They brought their old pots, it was quite the adventure to get in there. And there's a Mayan skeleton of a sacrifice. And you're no longer allowed to bring cameras because some idiot took a picture of the Mayan skeleton, dropped the camera, and broke the skeleton. Yep.
My dad had a term for that. It's called the Darwin file.
Yeah.
Did he have kids?
I have no clue.
He should not have.
Quite a few years before I went out and did it, but it's just because what you're talking about, not being able to touch it. It was one of those places where there was a lot of freedom until somebody ruined it by ruining a
Stonehenge.
Who knows how many thousand years?
Stonehenge. I'd love to go to Stonehenge. Just recently, we had the summer solstice. I would have loved to have been there, but like you said, you can't go there anymore. In the 70s, people used to sit inside of Stonehenge and listen to the acoustics of it all, but you can't do that anymore. Now it's all, there's a camera there and it can give you the view if you were there, but are you really there? So yeah, I hear what you're saying about the Mayan tour or the Inca tour that you were talking about. So.
All right. Well, those are great things, but don't forget there's always exploration around the house. There's always little things we can do right at home.
I've done them all.
Oh, well, I would challenge you to that, but I have taken quite a bit of your time. So final question is, how have you been making the best out of the current COVID pandemic situation?
My wife and I have been feeding hungry children.
It's a big mission and was very necessary. And then it's
very important to us. Because we were in that situation. We were, didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. So during COVID, when everyone was bored and didn't know what to do with themselves, we were extremely busy. So I'm probably a unusual answer for you, because we've been extremely busy because a lot of people need food. So that's what we've been doing. We haven't been doing anything else. No bingo, no, creative things that people I see at night when, I'm about ready to fall asleep. I'm like, wow, look at what they're doing. They're doing bingo and everybody's like, the Brady Bunch. And no, we haven't done any of that. We're feeding kids. So.
Well, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
That's really awesome and great work. Is there a place where if people want to donate to the cause?
Yes. Yeah. At our website, hearts-hands-hope.org.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for sharing
your
me,
story, sharing some laugh, and
thanks for doing this.
It's been a pleasure learning about you.
This is a great thing you're doing. Thank you for doing it. And thank you for having me on.